Well, good evening and happy Friday. Welcome everyone to the Just Jump In live stream. If you're out there, remember to say hello, even if you're lurking in the background. I just want to know you're out there and listening to me. And if you can hear me, just give me a holler that you can hear me as well. Do a sound check. And let's see who we have in the chat. So we have Kyle Stevens, who won the cookie, the virtual cookie, because I don't have any cookies and I don't share anyway. But welcome, Kyle. Gopher Girl popped in. And we have Brad from Willow Creek. Hello. And hey, John Benicki is in. John, which one are you? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure where we are at with all the Johns. Hi, Mom. How are you? And so far, that's who we have in the chat. And anybody else? Yep, Kyle. You've been robbed. I don't think there was ever a promise for a cookie, but yeah. So tonight's kind of just a progress update and see how everybody's doing, see how if everybody's recovering in the U.S. from Thanksgiving, and if you're not in the U.S. and it's just a regular day, happy Friday. I hope you don't have to work on the weekend. I had our company gives Friday off as well, so I had today off. I did want to buy some filament, so we only have one store that I can actually buy at retail, and there was enough of a sale to justify it versus the online prices. But they had a line out the door, and it's pretty cold here. It's below freezing, so John B, no number. Okay. So that pie is that's this gigantic pumpkin pie we got from Sam's Club. They do everything big there. Pretty good. I miss my mom used to add chocolate to the pumpkin pie she would make, and I miss those. We haven't done those. And Ray, nice to see you in here. Welcome around the Layout Podcast. Appreciate you coming in. So like I said, it's going to be a bit of an update. I did finally get back to actually doing some model railroading. I got a little further with the flat car, which is almost done. And then as you can see on the screen, we talked about this last week. I worked on the sander on the 3D printer. And I also worked on another item for my mother. And so we'll go through that. So I basically have 3 projects going right now. But I did for the sander, I actually weathered it, colored it and weathered it, and pulled the other sander off that I made from styrene, and I'll show you that one compared to what it looks like on the underside of the car as well. So let's get rid of this. And I don't want to do that. I want to get rid of that. And why can't I get rid of you? Oh, that's why. Okay. So this was the sander that I made from styrene, and let's see if I can get a close-up picture. So looking at the picture, I just tried to eyeball it and figure out a way to curve it and it's kind of all over the place, got big gaps in there. I just wasn't really happy with it. So I thought it would be a really good test project to do this um, with the 3D printer. So this was the first one I did. Now I did color this one because I wanted to test the color on this one first. I'll have to bring the picture up. This is the general shape of it. It's a little bit more straight lined than I probably would like, but I have to get better with the 3D program on shape, getting curves and things to these odd shapes. I don't know if you can see that from the printing. You can see lines through there because I didn't sand this one, and actually the reason I didn't use this one was actually this piece right here, which is the tube where the sand would come out, was on the wrong side. It needed to be on the inside of this, and so that was a fix I made. Also, my printer can't print lower than maybe a millimeter, so I actually printed this out, and these covers, or to where you put the sand in, was just too big from a visual standpoint. It didn't translate to the model well. So I went and I sanded those down, and so those are the two there. Let me pull this back out. Sorry for the shaky camera. And so I went ahead and ended up gluing it on. So there's the sander on here. Now, there isn't a whole lot of weathering to do on this, but there just wasn't a lot to do. Most of the weathering was on the two covers where you put the sand in. Otherwise, it was pretty clean. It was kind of a dull silver. So I did test it with some powders, is what I mainly used, and then I used oil brushers on here as well. I should get those out so you can see what I used. So I used they were Monroe Models powders, and then the oil brushers to get a little bit of an oil. The on camera, the most you can see is probably this here. The other thing I did is I sanded down the edges to round them a little bit, and then I also sanded down those hatches for the sand themselves. So let's just hold that up there. So I don't know if anybody's aware of these, but they're a few years old, but from Ammo by MIG. And yeah, this is let's pull back a little. These are the oil brushers, and basically they got the idea. These are my mom and Gopher Girl would probably know these well, but these are kind of makeup brushes, and like for eyelashes, I think. And so they got the idea to put them in there and apply them. Now, this brush is pretty thick. If I can get this on camera here, this brush is pretty thick, pretty big for something like this. So I used a toothpick, and I just put it on the side here and used the toothpick. So you can see this set had a red, a dark brown, and a rust. And so I used those. It wasn't a whole lot to do on it. But I'm gotta get better with oils. I don't have patience for oils because they take a while to dry. But as a concept, I'm pretty darn happy with it. So that's what I did on the flat car. Other things I would like to do is I'd like to kind of redo. I don't know if I'll redo this car, but when I do the other cars, I also kind of freehand did the bumper or the cow catcher on the front. I'd like to see if I can do better on those. And I've also uh, been working with um, so far the simple stuff, the main control box there, the air reservoir. And what I found out is that again with these straps basically on the air reservoirs measure out to about uh, um, just over a third of a millimeter, so too small for me to print with the current setup I have. So um, I'll still have to use styrene on that, and then uh, I'm also working on this right here, this box right here. With it, what I'm finding on this box, and I've showed a couple of these. I've printed in white and black filament that I had. So this one and another piece have kind of an thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that. Have an like an raised X to them, and I don't even think you'll be able to pick it up unless it catches light there. There you go. You might be able to see that, but that's a tiny raised X, but it didn't print the handle on there. And again, because it's too small, I'd have to oversize that handle, I think. But I'm happy I at least got that. And maybe I'll have to do something to to highlight that a little bit, maybe some dry brushing or something, so that it comes through. And there's one other to do it on. And so I want to try to do that, try to do parts of this. And if I can do parts of this, and as you know, I've been trying to do the actual underbody itself, and I've gotten close, not quite there. But so that's project one that I worked on this week. Project two is a project for my mother, and I posted some of this online on the Twin Cities. Let's move this out on the Twin Cities Facebook group. I post there quite a bit. We have a few active people on there. And so my mother being a dollhouse miniature dealer of fine arts. So what I'm making, I wouldn't consider fine art, but definitely doing that for her. And so I found, as a test, I found a toy train, and I'm making it really hard because I wanted to make it kind of what is traditional, but like Lionel. So dollhouse miniatures are 1/12 and 1/24 scale, and O scale, which is Lionel essentially, is 1/48 scale. But being that it would be a dollhouse size O scale, I went ahead and tried to do the math to get it an O scale toy version. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. An O scale toy version in dollhouse miniature size, if that makes sense. So I actually am trying to work through this, and this came with printed with little wheels. It didn't print anything to go in, so I'm in to be the axle. So I'm using toothpicks because those fit pretty much perfectly in here, and so they'll be like something like that. So it looks very toy-like, but that's okay for now. I am trying to find some other trains, and I'm trying to build the train myself, or train car myself. That's not going very well. The other thing was finding track to fit this. So there were a couple things I found, and you can see I've had difficulty with printing this one. It had an issue there, but these were my test tracks. And so this kind of fits on here. Now, how it will look with the wheels, I'm not sure. We may not have to put the wheels on if that's the case. And what I started with was actually building the table, but I found some track. This actually was scaled down. Z scale is what seems to work for this. And like I said, it kind of works for the scale as it is. So the only thing that I haven't been able to do, the person who made these didn't make any curved sections, or they did. I found them later. They did, but they're very large. They're like 30-degree curves, so they're very long curves. So the other thing I did was just continued moving on with the table. So here is the table, and this is, again, all of this is 3D printed. So here's the underside of the table and the top side of the table. If you're looking close, so if you use the 3-foot rule, this looks great. If you're looking close, though, which discerning collectors would, you're going to see some print lines here. So, but what I did, I did 2 techniques to paint this. You can see it's a little darker on top than on the side. So for the top, since it was going to start with kind of an earth tone before you put, landscaping on, I went ahead and I used Model Air from Vallejo, which is one of my preferred types of paint. You can see that it's Dark Earth 71029 was for the top, and this was airbrushed on. A lot of area to cover. And then for the wood color, there's lots of color theory about wood color. But again, I'm looking at this as what do I have on hand that can give me that 3-foot look. And so what gave me that was burnt umber and white. Both Craft Smart paints. I think I got these at Michael's. As a matter of fact, I know I got them at Michael's. And so I mixed those together with a lot more of the burnt umber and the white to lighten it up. And then I used airbrush thinner, and I used the X20A thinner from Tamiya. It's an acrylic thinner, and I think the reason I went with this was at the time the Vallejo thinner was more expensive, so I went with this one because it works with acrylics. And I don't think it turned. Now it's not very different. It's a little bit darker shading throughout. But again, from the 3-foot look, to me, it looks like wood. If you look up real close, you're going to see layer lines throughout. And, so this piece here, this is something else I want to show you. I worked on this the other night. So this is here to put a controller in. And I wanted it to, again, be Lionel, because I thought that the crowd that would see this, if they were grew up with trains, they would have grown up with Lionel. That's sort of the crowd that would see this. So, and forgive me on this, one of these broke off, and I went to glue it, and it's kind of angled in, unfortunately. So it's a little wobbly. Anyway, so I was going ahead and I needed to design the controller that I've seen. Now, I've never used it. I know there are lots of different controllers and things, and I think it's mostly the power piece to that. And so I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with you, hopefully, what I designed. And so if this evokes anything, then I've done my job. So let's see here. This is actually how it would look. Ooh, what did I do there? Let's try that again. Let's turn this around. It's kind of upside down, I guess. This is my freehand rendition of what do they call it? The ZV controller. So thank you, Ken. That's what I was going for. I appreciate that. Now let me see if I can. And I slice this, and it looks like it'll print. It looks like it'll take about. It's really small. Again, it's gonna go on this tiny little shelf here. So I had to design it to fit in there. So I don't know if it's really to scale, because those things were big. Yeah, Ken. Okay, maybe recognize it from using it, because I mean, I recognized it and I knew I wanted to do it, and and I never used it or anything, but it was recognizable to me. So so I'll give you a break on that. How's that? So when you do a 3D print, there's lots of things, especially if you're designing. You go through the design phase. Then you have to go into what's called a slicer, and it gets the print ready to be, and it gets it into a form that the printer can print out in 3D. And just to see if I can show you what that looks like, I'm going to see if I can share one more thing here. Let's try that. Oh. Screen. Let's see. Okay, it's an app, so it's not really letting me do what I like it to do. See if it. Nope. It doesn't want me to do that. And unfortunately, I don't have like another camera. Oh, it's almost like I forgot how this whole thing works. Let's try that. See if that works. So this is a slicer. So I have a bamboo printer, and they have their own slicer. So I'm learning using that. There are others out there that are not associated with a specific slicer. Let's get that in here. But what it does is it breaks down every layer. You figure out what type of quality you want, how strong you want it to print, if you want supports for it. And I actually normally do tree supports. Let's try. And so here I am slicing it, and now, so it didn't do it before the way I wanted it to. It did it now. So now this is what they have tree supports. So those freestanding things can't be freestanding. When a printer prints, it has to be printing on something. So you have these little trees that it makes, and then you have these print out, and this print If you can see on the screen, this print total time is going to take 8 minutes and 59 seconds. The model printing time is only 3 minutes of that. The prep time is over 5, almost 6 minutes. And that's because it does some things to make sure it'll print out. It makes sure that the bed is level for it to print on, and does a whole bunch of other checks. And I do that with every print. You don't have to. I do it to try and get as successful as print as possible. The other things you can check on here is like how it'll print at each layer coming up from the print bed. So you can see here it starts with the supports, and then it actually will print each of these layers. And so that's what a slicer does. And so when I do get filament, I have some coming on Sunday, supposedly. I'm hoping to get to print to see if I can print this. One of the things I've struggled with learning this is being able to get things this small to print. This is going to be tiny. And up close, it looks big and everything. And but again, it has to fit in this tiny little space here, and that's what I designed it to do. And then Ken, maybe you can tell me if it actually looks to scale at some point. So that's the second project that I've been working on little by little. I am practicing 3D printing and getting everything set up and printing and going through all the settings and everything. I had bought 2 spools of filament at the time I bought the printer. Well, in about 2 weeks, I ran through both of those rolls of filament. And so I got some on order, and that should come soon. So that is project number 2. Before I jump into the third project that I have going on, I'm curious if what other people are working on. Did you have time to work this week, yesterday and today with the holiday for those in the U.S.? I know, Brad, I know you've been working. You've been putting out videos showing your progress. It's nice to see that. If you want it done right, Mom, no, it's not going to be easy to do. It's not. It's actually, that's the thing. I would say for me, and it's not, 3D printing is not for everybody, but I don't find it that difficult. One of the great things about the printer I bought is it was designed to be very user friendly. It's designed to work out of the box, which it did. It's designed for you to be able to print something without knowing anything about it. Which is a really good starter printer for sure. And before, a good one to get started before you get the whole print farm thing going. So, yeah. And Ken, I saw you had family over for Thanksgiving. You had some young operators. How old were your operators again? Yeah, Kyle. There are some, if you have a tablet, some slicers will work on a tablet. Some printers will work with that. But yeah, for the most part, you need a computer. I think, Ken, that would be the perfect group for me to operate in. I'd feel a lot less pressure operating in that group than all the guys we have operating in the Twin Cities. I still feel a little intimidated, just because half the guys in our group are engineers. They work on the railroad, and the other half just has either worked on the railroad or just know about it and have lived with it and everything. And I've told folks before, I come in from the artistic end of this. I grew up loving passenger trains in New Jersey. Um, but I didn't really see freight trains. I saw the occasional freight train on the Northeast Corridor. Um, and 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 when I moved out here to the Midwest, I started to see BNSF trains every time we would go out to South Dakota to visit my Gulf Girls family, and so that's kind of how I got to see freight, freight traffic. And I'm learning. I'm learning. Still not sure what a cut lever does, but I'm learning. Um, so, third project that I've been working on, as we all know, is, well, I should say there's four projects, because I think building building cars or doing the AP program, the modeling is one piece, the paperwork is another. So I had done the paperwork for this up through getting the decals on and doing the finishing touches. So I still have that left. For the cab car, I started that paperwork and I did about an hour's work on that paperwork. But outside of that, it was trying to get these decals on. And so this is another one where this is all about the 3-foot rule when it comes to just, having this on a layout and people seeing it. Um, from an AP evaluation, I'm pretty sure the area that I'm going to get, I'm going to have the most coaching from the evaluators is going to be on the actual physical work. Um, they talk about glue spots, and I can tell you. So one of the things you're not going to do is you're not going to turn this car over when you're operating it and look at all the details. When they're evaluating, they're going to be able to do that, or they're going to do that, and they're going to see, okay, there's lots of glue spots that I wasn't able to clean up, all throughout, and some imperfections. There's some, I keep gluing this down and it keeps separating on there as well. But let's take a little bit of a closer look at the decaling piece. And I actually am going to have to get more decals. I'm kind of out from messing them up. So on this side, the the weight limit, there's 2 lines, which I actually got on this side. So I got those on, but you can see there's some problems with those. But there's a load limit and a weight limit, and I was only able to get the load limit on there, and well, you can't if you can't see it there. And I had some trouble with that one still, and I'm out of those small pieces, so I have to get more of those. And then this was just the letters and numbers set. So the letters and numbers set is this condensed Gothic. It's still a little big, but it fits what the prototype picture showed. But that's those. So it's this one was for a trailer train, but it had the load limit and weight limit ones small enough on there, along with other things. This is what it was called, this piggyback one. And you can see that I've been through 3 sets of these, and I've got 3 out of 6 to work. So So I just have the one on there. So advice from the group. Um, would you do something to this to to say that part of that is hidden? Is there anything you would do, to kind of hide the issues? On here, this took several attempts too. I'm also out of numbers, and I'll show you the other side. This one was better than the other side. I don't know why this 7 is so much longer, and I don't know if you can see, but when you're working with it up close, it doesn't line up well. Um, had a little trouble with the 0, kind of a little bit of chopped off. So maybe I'll put something on there that's not red, to show decay on it or something. And then the 2 9s, and I got those to line up okay. And the NJTR comes out generally decent. You can see I've had to repaint this and then put the lettering on. Oh, cool, John. So you have one of those transform. Does it look similar? One of the things that I'm not good on the 3D on the CAD program with those conical shapes, and I really wanted to get the conical shape that it was, so it's rounded on the ends, and you have those levers that move those ends, and then it gets bigger as it goes towards the middle. The other part of it was kind of bending the top. It wasn't a straight flat top. That was pretty difficult too, and that's my inexperience. An artist, somebody who's really good with CAD program, could probably get it really close to what it is. Okay, so let's take a look at the other side. Now, this was the original one that I redid. I repainted, and you can see all kinds of marks. So even though I painted it, I sealed it, and when I put those on, I tried to be very light with tweezers, and I used these tweezers. They still gouged it very easily. I tried using a brush here, and then a brush like that, and then a brush like this, and I wasn't getting movement on the decals. And so I was moving it too much with the tweezers and ran into those problems. So rather than redo it, I might do some weathering to try and hide those white spots potentially. Yeah, but here you go again. See, this one's a little even more defined how long that 7 is. But I got the 0, 7, and the 9, and I'm out of 9s. So, and these Champ decals, I don't know if online retailers have them at all, but our local hobby shop has them. But I don't think he replenishes them from anywhere, because you can't get the Champ decals anymore from a supplier. But I'll have to see if he has another condensed Gothic so that I can get the 9 on there. And if not, I'm going to have to do something with that. So that's another question for the group is, what could I do in that spot if I don't find that 9? Could I maybe take like a 0 that I have left, and maybe take the top half of the 0, and then maybe on the bottom half do some kind of damage of some sort to make it look like it got knocked off or rubbed off? Or do I put graffiti over it too? The prototype picture has graffiti on the car in here. So I was thinking that, I was thinking it for it here too. Maybe graffiti or something like that. John, I appreciate you. You don't have to send me a picture. There's plenty of them online. And the interesting thing is the Lionel logo on top, depending on how old it is different. as you go through the as you see the pictures on there. But no, I actually, so what's really neat about that program is when you're designing something, let me pull that back up to show you. I've done this with a couple things now. Uh, let's bring. Oh, that's okay. Got it. Let's see here. Let's try this again. So, all right. So you can import the picture. Sorry. Let's try that again. You can import the picture here right into this where you're building it. So you can see on this one, you can see all the parts. And here's the one, here's a picture of one that I got. And that's that conical shape I was talking about that I wasn't very good with, that I need work. But basically, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, 5 parts if you count the 2 levers, because I copied the lever over. And technically, there's a way in the assembly area where I could actually make these move, which would be really cool from a mechanical standpoint. I was playing with the logo here. Here's where I imported the picture, but I was able to import it onto the workspace there, and so I was doing it essentially. That's how I do stuff. I do everything visually. Um, I don't have, I don't have measurements or anything. So I was truly making it to fit the table. So this is on shape, John. Um, I did something with New Tracks Modeling, which is every Wednesday night they have an online program. They started at the beginning of a pandemic, and they have all kinds of segments, and they have one called a build along, and you'd have somebody a um, do a model or whatever, and do it in parts. And that's actually what got me into model building. It's what convinced me to go for it, because they also, when they had a kit that they were doing, they'd get the manufacturer to give a discount. And so my journey of actually getting in and building a wood craftsman kit was started with a Blair Line kit, which was their general store, and they gave a 25% discount to the people who were part of the show and or attending the show, and did several segments where they had a modeler building it. And I went back in and watched the segments a bunch of times. um so um and so that's how I got it. And he did there was a one where they did a girder bridge to introduce designing something for 3D printing. And the guy who did it has experience professionally and everything, and wanted to pick a program that you could do free and have a well-featured program with the free part of it. It's something, Onshape is something you can pay for, and you get some more features. And so I've been working with it, and I decided I wanted to stick with something and really learn it. And this is the way I've been building lots and lots of things. I've showed them before, some of them before. Let me show you the stuff. I mean, all the stuff that I have on here that I own. Here is all the underbody stuff is here. There are all kinds of things I tested. Here's the bridge. This is built in this is the build along, and it was like 5 or 6 show segments. They were probably 15 to 30 minutes long, and took us through it. And I have yet to print this. I tried printing it once, and I didn't understand all the settings for the PLA filament and everything. But if I can get this to print, this would look fantastic as a print. Um, so yeah, and I've seen some things on different ones, and it's interesting that once you start with one program, there are some basic things that are the same across the programs. They may be located in a different place, but when you're starting to hear people who are designing stuff, some of it starts to sound familiar. I actually built a couple things in Tinkercad, which is a much more basic program, but it has some of the basic stuff that all of these programs have. And I think that I've showed on here before. I don't know where it is. I mean, I did some. Oh, I've showed the. That is not okay. So there are some things that are. Let me see that are. Let me just cut down to owned by me, because this is, if you do this program, if you work with this program and it's the unpaid version, everything you do in here is public, so people could take this and they can modify them, and I'm truly fine with that. I'm not making any money off of this stuff. It doesn't matter to me. The first things I successfully did were these little fuel stands. They're for a fuel tank, a stationary fuel tank, and it's somewhere down the list, and the bottom of the fuel tank. This was a little bit off. I probably could fix that. I showed the passenger car side on a previous show, where I actually modeled it after a Amtrak car that was in N scale, and I scaled it up to HO scale. And modeled that. And so these are some other things I was just practicing with. And so what got me started, so the other thing I want to try and print is just the basic walls for the New Brunswick station that I'm scratch building. I think it was Tom, I don't know if he's on the show, but he got me thinking about it. And this is just the 4 basic walls. And the biggest thing I had to figure out here is, can I print them and keep it in scale and have these come together? So I actually put 45-degree angles on these, and that was something I never did on here. So it's something I learned. And again, here's the assembly. I built the walls separately, and they're just simply the walls. I haven't done anything to them, but I want to see if I can get it on the, each wall on the print bed. It's going to be really tight. But I did that. So I keep working on it and seeing what I can come by. Now, it's talking about, I was talking about some of the stuff being too small to print, needing at least 1 millimeter. So these are a couple things that I had a family member of mine, Michael, before I got the printer, try and print, and he said he couldn't print them, and he has a smaller nozzle than I do, and because these are less than 1 millimeter, but these are the lift rings for the cab car, and those didn't print out, and I tried it, and again, it may be the settings. These are, this right here, this rectangular thing is for the headlights. It will go over top of the headlights. It's like the lens, I guess you would say. And these are ditch light housings. And again, I didn't get them to print, so I've got to do some tweaking of everything from the filament that I'm using, tweaking all the settings there, to the printer, and figuring out if it can be done. And there are nozzles, and so nozzle size matters too, where it melts the plastic and it comes through the nozzle. And there's a smaller nozzle I could try as well to see if that makes a difference. But again, these might be too small, and I might just have to go ahead and create these with styrene. Which is that if that's the case, that proves it out, and it's not something that I may be able to do. So again, yeah, that's what that's all I've been working on. Having some time. Work is starting to ramp down slightly. I'm still busy today, but it's not the height that it was mid-November, early November to mid-November. But anyway, so let's see here. Let's stop the share. So again, question. I'd love some ideas of what to do. If I don't get the extra 9 on there, what would be a suggestion on that? And then also how to deal with the white spots there. Do I need to take off these decals and repaint and do it again? One of the things I've been struggling with are these stirrups. I really should put the wheels on this thing at this point just to keep those stirrups from breaking any more than they have broken. Let's see if I have them in here. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So, I have the wheel sets. They're all set to go. I fit them on there already. I have the couplers. I also painted the couplers. I might try to weather them a little bit to lighten them up. But then I have some of the details, some of the brass details still to do to finish that up. So it's almost done, and then the paperwork is just about done, and that'll be ready for March when we have our modelers retreat. And I plan to get this evaluated there, and I'm planning to hopefully be done with the cab car, which needs a lot more work to be able to to be able to get the cab car evaluated as well. So John, the reason I went with a filament printer was because 2 reasons. One, filament printer, resin printer has a few extra pieces to it, with a curing station and a washing station. Just more stuff is number one. So space was a concern. And then number 2, I don't have good enough ventilation in our townhome. And for spray painting and everything I do, I have a portable spray booth which vents right out the window, so I'm good there. But with the resin stuff, it's messier and it has more toxic stuff. So that's why I chose to go with a filament printer. I would love to have a resin printer because the level of detail is just that much more than a filament printer. You can get really detailed with a filament printer. They've come a long way. But a resin printer is all about the detail, and you can get small details out of that, I'm sure, in the way it prints, because it prints differently, and you don't have to print layer lines. It doesn't have to extrude and print layer lines. So just need a new house, or a house that has ventilation, has an area that's away from our dogs and my wife, who and Gopher Girl, who gets migraines, is more sensitive to everything. That's why I have a room that is away, that the door stays closed, so the dogs don't eat all my pieces of modeling that are on the floor that I can't find. All the screws and everything, that all the springs and everything that fly off, and then it keeps the fumes away from my wife and kicking off the migraines. I've had tension headaches before, and they were the worst thing I've ever felt. Migraines are worse than that, and I between Gopher Girl and a number of people that I've worked with, it's a hideous thing to go through, and so I don't want to be the cause of that. But I would love to have a resin printer when the time is right. Hey, Daryl. Derail Daryl has popped in. I saw you the other night. And I don't think I've seen you on a live stream in a long time. Not that you haven't been on them. I haven't seen you. So it was nice to see you on there. So yes, your printer takes sheets of paper. So, yeah. So are you working on anything tonight, Daryl? We've just been going through the 3 projects basically I've been working on. So yeah, John, they're not fun, and I wouldn't wish them on anybody, for sure. Yeah. So what else are folks working on? Anything at all, or is it a all family weekend for everybody? Yeah, he was talking about he did talk about the break. Um, um, he did talk about the break last night that he had, or the other night that he had, and that's completely understandable. And but hopefully, Daryl, you're still modeling and doing something. I know you said you rehashed, or you re-released a video. Uh, which reminds me, I've been still trying to convince Gopher Girl to become my social media manager, so that more content could be released, and you can see more of me. And what kits are you, Brad? What kits are you working on again? You said you were just, I forget what you had mentioned it up in the chat here a little bit earlier. Kyle, are you working on anything right now? And Gopher Girl, are you working on anything right now with your Legos? Hello, Key Group. Anytime we can get our dogs into daycare or somebody to care for them, would be a good time. And Ken, I like it when your wife makes food for visits too. Just saying, it's That's right, the ag bins. That's what you're talking about. What, Kyle? What kind of what was it? Is it a an engine? So we have a space where Golf Girl wants to set up a Christmas village with snow and everything for her Legos, and it, where it is kind of storage right now, and so that needs to get cleaned up and um, and we talked about getting ready for Christmas and everything. And I reminded her that she doesn't have to worry about that. We can get that area clean because we've had our Christmas tree up all year. We have this nice white Christmas tree with nice lights on it. And so we never took it down. Even one of our dogs loves it as a hiding spot. And so we haven't taken it down. Uh, Oh, so Daryl, you mentioned that she was about to take her last breath, but was that last night? S- And Kyle, are you a working stiff like me, or are you retired, or so? And is it a was it a kit, the brass model? Is it something you built, or so today? Yeah. So um, so our condolences to you and your family, and um, you know, be strong for your family. And I've lost most recently. I lost well, it hasn't been recent, but I lost my dad. It's over 10 years now, and it doesn't, you know, the hurt doesn't go away, but it gets better. You start to remember the good times over the bad times, and that helps a lot. So hopefully your family will get through that. You're only 28, Kyle. Wow. There's actually somebody young in the hobby here around here. That's awesome. Got a long way to go. I still do too. I don't think I'll be retiring. I think I'll be working, you know, to keep the hobby going for me. I'm gonna have to be working forever. Uh, so okay, okay, an imported model. Cool. So Kyle, what era are you modeling? What are you modeling? So well, I certainly hope you're doing something more lucrative than me, Kyle, to so that you'll be able to retire. Yeah, well, this you can't go wrong with the model railroading community and Daryl. Um, the it's it's an old in general, except for Kyle, it's an older group who's been through family things, and so they always have support for you out there. Oh, That must be hard to being so close to retirement to have to count down 2.5 years. But good luck to you. Most people say, and some of you in here who are retired can certainly attest to it. I'm sure you get busier when you're retired. You're just not focused on your job anymore. You're focused on family and other things. So hopefully it'll be a good one for you, John. So, let's see here. Just going back to, we're hearing from the community out there. Some of the other things I know that I'm not going to be able to print, or I'm going to have trouble printing, or any of the wiring. So there's wiring underneath here that goes all along to the center box, from here to the center box, and from over here to the center box. And I was trying to print holes actually all the way through this, and I have done that, but it's too small to print the way I have the settings now. So I have to get the smaller nozzle and see if that does anything, and it may still not do anything. I may not be able to do it, but it would be nice so that I could have just a set of 4 long wires that go all the way, instead of doing them in parts and then having thread all the way through and then gluing them down. The other ones that I couldn't print or was having trouble with my settings and everything was the cross beams. Again, very small. And so I'm going to see if I can dial them in to be able to print them. I did correct some things on here. I have a bunch of things that I've printed and reprinted, and so let's pull this out here. So this one was the first print, this one was the second print, and this one was the third print. Here is one. Let's see, there's a lot of contrast in it. This one out, and here is one of the actual car underbodies. That's really cool, Kyle. I never got into coins, but back in the day, it was a thing with stamps, and my dad had a stamp collection, and unfortunately, I have no idea where it ended up, but it was gone for a while, even before he died. I love those stamps, and I had them for a long time. I love looking at them and collecting. When I was a kid, I would collect what I could and everything, so that's cool. So in designing this, I got the first one done, and everything worked on it except for, you see on this one, there are supports. There were supports on this, and when I was taking the supports off, it took this side, it cut it in half. Essentially, it wasn't strong enough to, like this side was. I don't know if you could see that, but that's where the weight would go. So and it was a little bit, just slightly long. So measurement is my worst part of the hobby. It's something I need to. I don't know what I need to do, but I measure things 3-4 times and they still don't come out right. and you can see it's a little bit off, a little bit elongated here, but I was able to design the area to put the weight in, the holes for contacts for the wheels, um, simple sides, you know, for this area. Those are kind of the more simple things. Then this styrene piece I added when I was getting these started. This felt like really small, and I thought it was too small. What I found out was fillet is a rounded edge, and probably here get some light on it. The fillet is a rounded edge, and it takes some, it takes it and rounds it off, and it made this look really thin. I measured it out. It's still 4 millimeters, but the fillet was too big. So I corrected that on the next print. The other thing is, you can see here that was way off in measurement were the truck bolsters. And so I attempted to correct that. So on print number 2, I corrected the fillet here. I did not correct those, the bolsters. I was having a lot of trouble figuring out what I did. I did too many layers of something, and I was having trouble moving these, and they just weren't. And there's some imperfections along here, but with the supports coming off, I managed to have this kind of stay. So that had some successes on there as well. And then I went and I thought I fixed the bolsters. I moved them. I measured a couple times, but it did this really weird thing because it didn't just move these bolsters. It moved parts of the center sill. And so that's what created all this crosshatch. And it's actually the printer was going long ways, then short ways, then long ways, short ways, all through. And it was because of that change. I broke those off. That wasn't the printing. But if we go ahead and compare these two, I way overshot the bolster locations. I dialed in slightly. The length is slightly better, still not great. And then there's 2 types of supports. There's these straight supports, what they call traditional, and then tree supports, which are all kind of random-ish limbs that grow upward, and that's what you saw on the controller unit, where those were tree supports. So these just were printed on here solid, and I couldn't get these off. Came off very easy on these, but it did not come off easy, and it's because of the setting. It was a finer setting, so it was going to need more support because it was a finer setting for the printing, and I gave up on this. I wasn't going to continue trying to pull this stuff off, but it actually, I don't know if you can see that, it actually goes down to that layer and has all this support built up this thick all the way across. So that's where I ended up. So I'm going to continue to try and make this work. I don't know if I'll have the energy to actually redo the whole thing because of this part of this, because these don't move traditionally easily, and when they do move, we have that problem. So we'll see if we just use these and we continue to try to build parts on this one. Yeah, I mean, that's the evolution of that. And let's see if we put these all together here. We'll see what we can do to that, because, and trust me, it's not easier than the easier part is the cutting part, cutting styrene and measuring it out and making it look right and all of that, and the hand cramping that happens with that I get. That's a little bit better, but to be honest, spending all your time designing it is just is where it is, and I spend a lot of hours designing to get it right, and then having to print it out. And you could see 3 iterations, I still don't have it right, so I'm still have more time put in to designing it. But I don't mind that part. I really enjoy it. As you can see, I've been working hard on that to get things right. So, definitely. So Daryl, when I get in trouble, my wife tells me to go upstairs. That's when I get to do my hobby time. So if uh, you know I haven't annoyed her enough, I do a little extra effort if I've got something to work on and to get her to send me upstairs. And it works sometimes. John, Gopher Girl and I, it took a long time to figure that out, longer for her than for me, but it took years to figure that out, that sometimes you need that time away, because this is the person, like you said, you've been married 41 years. We're going on 23 years ourselves, and you realize this is the person you're with day in and day out. Every once in a while, you just need to just be separated from each other so you don't kill each other. And it works. And she has hers. When she gets into her groove with her Legos, I don't bug her. And when I get into my groove with model railroading, she doesn't bug me. And so so Kyle, if um it's not necessarily for everybody. For me, it was something important to me, and I wanted to make sure it happened, and I made sure it happened. But it is what it is for everybody. And I searched for a wife for a long time, and one just kind of introduced. Gopher Girl introduced. I didn't introduce myself to her. She introduced herself to me and asked me if I wanted to talk. And from there, we built a relationship, and we were friends before we were dating. And then we started dating, and and I did propose to her, and here it is 23 years later. So yeah, if it happens, it happens. And if it's your thing, it's your thing. If not, it's no big deal. um yeah, Kyle, like I said, I do that every once in a while, um to get her to tell me to go upstairs and do some model railroading. If she's not buying it or not letting me go, sometimes out of the blue, a voice comes from nowhere and says, Dan, go upstairs. And I end up going upstairs. I've tricked you a number of times, Gopher Girl. Like we've said, that time apart, I guess it makes the heart grow fonder. That's awesome, Daryl. The kids part, not having to go through it 3 times. John, you hear stories of that all the time, where it's short time together. There's a generation of people for sure who got together and weren't necessarily in love and didn't maybe even know each other well, and then built a relationship anyway and been married as long as you and things. So it definitely can happen that way too. Kind of like I was saying earlier, whatever makes you happy. It doesn't, it, you know, Ken, have a good night. Appreciate you coming in. I'm sure you have lots of advice, but your wife is probably telling you right now that you have to go to bed. So um, I wouldn't doubt that at all. So have a good night. But yeah, Kyle, like I said, whatever makes it work for you and whatever makes you happy and however you deal with it, um, just do what makes you happy. Daryl, that's awesome. That's what I've always wanted, a library, but in a dark, old, gigantic room. Um, Not anything I'll ever have, but that's really cool. And I don't read books that much anymore. I don't have the patience to I'll listen to books. But I would just love a library. I'd love to be able to just be in that room would be relaxing to me. That's I agree, John. You got to work at it. And it's simply because you have to be able to live together day in and day out. There are times where there's nothing new, and you have to come up with something to talk about because there's nothing new to talk about. You have a lot of the same stories over and over. But those are those people who say you're a free man. Um, they're you know I find value in having a partner there. Um, as you get older, you learn more about your mortality, and it's nice to have somebody. So for those of them that say you're a free man, those folks are they're they they need their partners, and so um, you know I don't think they're that jealous of you, but um, you know I remember there's a difference between you know Gopher Girl doesn't care where I go necessarily. She just wants me back around when I need to be back around for something, like going to work the next day or whatever. Um, but I'm still a free man, and I'm able to do the things that I'm able to do, and you know, Daryl. But that's what your wife and my wife and all of our wives expect of us. So why not, why not fulfill their image of us and, play dumb every once in a while and do dumb things every once in a while. So, uh, early on in one of our apartments, I got like three bookshelves, and I was like, I really want to fill these up. And all that meant is when I had to move, I had a lot of books to move and these three shelves to move. I didn't quite get the room that I wanted, but I tried with the bookshelves, and we still have those bookshelves, and they're still filled with books. Something tells me, Daryl, it's all an image. Something tells me you're probably a Disney loving sweetheart of a guy. All right. So hopefully next time I will have some more 3D printed stuff. I'm hoping to have that little controller printed. Uh, and hopefully be a little bit further along on all of my projects. And I just got to keep them in focus. I'm sure you don't really want to hear much about the paperwork, but that's really the next step after these projects get done will be the paperwork. And then I'll keep working on my mom's dollhouse project. And want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and hanging out. And I hope everybody had fun with their families, and for those that celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. And I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend. And remember to just jump in and try something new. And you may like it, you may not, but at least you tried it. And have a great weekend, everybody.